Good evening and welcome to Face to Face. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Niresh Eliyatambi. I am delighted to welcome back to our studio His Excellency Santosh, High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka. Good evening and welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
And you were, of course, on this program last year, perhaps about 8 or 10 months ago.
Yes.
And it's lovely to have you back. Now, today, Your Excellency, is the 77th Republic Day of India. And all congratulations from all of us here at Newsfirst.
Thank you.
This is a very significant milestone for India, and it would be in the history of any country, 77 years. Your Excellency, how do you see India's standing in the world today?
No, first of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity on this very important day. This is the Republic Day of India, and I don't know whether everybody knows that this is the day when we adopted our constitution, that India became a democracy and now the largest and the most vibrant democracy in the world. We are very proud of this day particularly because our constitution has stood the test of time. If you recall, at the time of independence, many people had a lot of skepticism about India as a country surviving after the 200 years of colonial exploitation had ended. But here we are. I mean, today I'm proud to say that last year we emerged as the fourth largest economy. Before the end of this decade, we will be the third largest economy in the world. The last quarter in India, despite the very turbulent global atmosphere, we grew at 8.2%. The annual growth rates are expected to be in excess of 7.5% in this year. And we are the fastest growing major economy in the world. If you look at the macroeconomic environment in India, the conditions for investments, incoming investments, the kind of transformation on digitization, on infrastructure, on the energy capacity in India and the profile of the energy industry in India, all that has undergone dramatic change. We are poised to be, growing at a very, very rapid pace for the next 2 decades, according to most international observers. And I think as a country in this region, as a fellow traveler, we welcome Sri Lanka in that journey very, very warmly and happily.
Well, I'm sure all Sri Lankans are most happy to go along with India on this journey. And let me just ask you about India's rise to the point where India is no longer just a regional power, but is indeed a global power. I hesitate to use the word superpower because we had a situation in the world for decades where there were 2 superpowers, no longer. But India is certainly a global power now. Does that bring about a sense of pride in you and among all Indians?
I think it is not so much about pride. Of course, there is in any progress that you achieve, any achievement that you make, but it's more a question of fulfillment. We have a vision. My Prime Minister has a vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047, developed India, when we celebrate 100 years of our independence. And we look at the world from the lens of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, which is that the world is one family. This is something that has a very deep meaning. It's in the roots of our civilization, yours and mine. And we must understand that that is the DNA that was written many, many centuries ago of India and Sri Lanka. We believe in this principle and we act accordingly. So when we talk about Viksit Bharat in 2047 or developed India in 2047, we also at the same time aspire that Viksit Bharat to be the Vishwamitra, the friend of the world. And if we are going to be the friend of the world, the first friend has to be in the neighborhood. in Sri Lanka and our other neighbors. So that is how I look at it. I mean, I don't think it's a question of, I mean, if we are growing, historically we were very prosperous. If you look back to the ancient times and the medieval times, India was one of the richest countries in the world. According to Angus Madison, more than 50% of the world's GDP came from India and China. And at different times in history, it was either India or China which was the leading economy in the world. Now we are coming back to what would have been the normal historical norm, but for the 200 years of interruption by colonial exploitation.
Absolutely. Now, Your Excellency, South Asia is a very complex region. Although we are all South Asians with a lot of commonalities, history and heritage and so on. But right now, several countries in the South Asian region are undergoing a lot of challenges. And that tends to place a bit of strain on the entire region as well. And I'm speaking about what took place in Bangladesh, what took place in Nepal, and of course there were issues with Pakistan. Maldives now I think is more stable, but earlier there were some issues. But in light of all of this, how do you view the strength of Sri Lanka and India in bilateral relations, especially over the last 2 years?
See, India-Sri Lanka relations in the last 2 years, or maybe I can take it back further to 4 years or so, has been at its warmest. I've said this elsewhere also, that we are probably enjoying relations better than ever before. Maybe somewhere in the past history there might have been a period of similar or better relations, but in the modern era, after our independence, today our relationship is based on the model of good neighborly relations. We are projecting to the world that if you are neighbors, this is the way to interact, this is the way to work together, that we travel the journey of growth and prosperity together, that we share our expertise and our experiences in a way that no one is left behind. This is the neighborhood first policy, in other words, that India has pursued along with the Mahasagar approach, which is also very relevant for Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is an Indian Ocean country, like India is. And our relationship has a very strong maritime dimension. So I would say that India and Sri Lanka relations are excellent, both at the level of the government, but more importantly, for me, at the level of the people. I don't think the trust and goodwill that we see among the people of the two countries has existed in the last 3 decades or 4 decades that I have. I'm old enough to remember 4 decades. So that I haven't seen that kind of warmth and trust and goodwill.
And you, of course, are quite an expert on India-Sri Lanka relations, because prior to your becoming High Commissioner, and you have served several years now as High Commissioner, prior to that, you did do a stint, I think perhaps almost 20 years ago, in the High Commission here in Colombo, before, of course, you were promoted to I think Brussels and various other Western nations, and then you came back to Sri Lanka, so you're quite an expert on Sri Lanka and India-Sri Lanka relations.
Well, I mean, I don't look at myself as an expert on anything, but yes, I can say that I have been here for now more than 5 years in all. It is one country that I have spent more years than maybe one more or two more country in the world outside of India. I have many friends here over the years. When I was younger, I had younger friends who have now turned older with me. And it's been a very, very enjoyable time. I mean, if you look at me, the years I have spent the previous time and this time, I can easily say that these were the best years of serving abroad in any part of the world. Simply because of the warmth of the people, the easy comfort with which we can engage, very, very lasting friendships that you can, strike here in this country. But also because, the relationship that we have built in this period from that when I came in 2007 to now, to see it growing and being part of a growing journey is always more satisfying than one where we are going down together, which is not the kind of objective that any diplomat would like to have for any relationship.
Absolutely. And now let's get to one of the key operations which took place during your tenure here, which was Operation Sagar Bandhu. And as we all know, Sri Lanka was hit by one of the most terrible cyclones, unprecedented levels of damage and destruction from Cyclone Ditwa. And India came to our assistance very rapidly, and it was the precision of a military operation and a relief operation, it was so heartening to see our neighbor, standing with us throughout that ordeal. But how did you manage to set it up and execute it so quickly, and how did you view it when the cyclone hit?
I was not here in Sri Lanka at that time. Actually, I was in Delhi. Looking at the forecast, I had already forewarned people in Delhi and here in Colombo to be prepared to do something in the morning if the kind of cyclone that was expected and the devastation that it could cause. So we were, in a sense, mentally ready. But the reason, I think, first and foremost, let me tell you, you should not be surprised that we responded. I think that is in the spirit of the neighborhood first policy that we have. If as a neighbor we don't respond quickly, then leave it to someone else to respond, then that would be not an appropriate thing.
Who would?
Yeah, I mean, and particularly when we have these very strong brotherly, sisterly ties between our two countries, we have, the kind of warmth and trust and goodwill that I'm talking about that we have been enjoying over the last few years. So it was very natural for us to come. And I think we came even before we were formally asked to come. So when I called up from Delhi, asked for, permission to bring in supplies and start sending supplies, there was, a positive response from the Sri Lankan side. But the reason why we are able to do it quickly, and we take a lot of pride in the fact that we are a first responder. And let me tell you, it's not just in Sri Lanka. I was looking at where all we have helped in case of a crisis or a natural calamity in the last 1 year. We have gone as far as El Salvador. We were in Nepal. We were in, I think, Mozambique or Madagascar recently. We were in Myanmar very, very recently. So the reason we have been able to do it is that under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we have been able to set up a mechanism by which we can, immediately mount, this kind of relief and rescue effort. So we have a National Disaster Management Authority now in India, and which has been built and strengthened through a modern legislation in that regard. Then there is a regulation that governs this. They are able to take very quick decisions. They don't have to go through the usual normal bureaucratic process of getting approvals. They have their own funding. As once they are activated, they're able to access the funds and access the stocks that they already keep in different parts of the country. We have a National Disaster Response Force, which we dispatched to Sri Lanka. And the Indian Armed Forces, all the three wings, are also very well, have standard operating procedures to respond to any requests that we make to them. So it's about making a few phone calls, activating these systems and mechanisms, and things start moving very quickly. Now, one of the things in any disaster is to determine what is going to be needed. It's very easy to know that whenever a natural calamity strikes, there will be a certain basic type of things that will be needed, which is always ready, and we can deliver that very quickly, which is what we did, because we had the INS Vikrant, the aircraft carrier, and INS Udayagiri, another ship of Indian Navy, here for the International Fleet Review. So we were able to access the HADR blocks that they carry with them, because they are on the sea, and anywhere there is a disaster, they can be at a short notice asked to go to assist that country. And therefore, they always carry these blocks. So we were able to evacuate those blocks as the first relief rescue item for Sri Lanka. That was about 11 a.m. on the day Cyclone Ditwa had the landfall. We then started sending things from India, but because of the weather, it couldn't come straight away. So we sent the planes to Kochi to wait for the weather to clear. And by midnight, when the weather cleared, early morning by 1:30, we had the first air supplies from India. So the reason we were able to do it, as I said, that we have a cross-sectoral mechanism. We also have a specialized force. We have the specialized agency that responds in these situations. And these are responding within India. And to respond to other countries, we have to only, create the necessary sort of situation for them to, respond to it, give them the support from the Air Force to fly them across, which is what we did in the case of Sri Lanka. So you had, by the next day, you had the National Disaster Response Force here. You had the supplies of basic relief items. You had what are called Bhishma cubes, which is in modular emergency care units that can, just like it's like a box, and it opens up and becomes an operation theater and can, treat 200 people a day. And then we, of course, sent the helicopters at the request of government of Sri Lanka, because these heavy lift helicopters that we sent could deliver aid to remote areas which were inaccessible. They could also take out stranded people from that region and bring them to safety. And they operated in Sri Lanka for about 2 weeks. We also then subsequently felt that emergency medical care would be required. So we brought in a field hospital from the army, which was deployed in Mahianganaya and treated about 8,000 people. We also had, at the request of government of Sri Lanka, 4 sets of Bailey bridges brought in. And I'm happy to tell you that the first one was inaugurated when the External Affairs Minister came in December. The second one, I inaugurated it last week. And the third one is to be inaugurated tomorrow. So 3 sets, 3 places, we have been able to restore connectivity. And as we speak, as part of our assistance package, there is more Bailey bridges that are coming. So this is the reason, by telling you that these are all kept in different parts of the country and can easily be accessed. And there is a standard operating procedure and a mechanism that has been created for these situations, primarily to address situations in India. But because we have this capability and we believe in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam and we have a neighborhood first policy, we deploy them when our friends and neighbors need it.
Fabulous indeed. And of course, we at Newsfirst had our Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra, which is continuing to operate.
I see that, yes. I have seen that on the television, yes.
And it was operating 24 hours a day from even before the cyclone hit landfall. And I'm very happy to say that the government of India certainly supported us, especially with the provision of helicopters, because there were some areas of the country where we couldn't send our trucks. And, that was heartening to have that kind of support from India. Right. We need to take a short commercial break now. Don't go away, because I'm in conversation with His Excellency Santosh Jha, High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka. We'll be right back.
The Voice Teens Walking Auditions.
January 8.
ගම්පහ නගර සභා පුස්තකාල ශ්‍රවණාගාරය.
January 9.
මේගමුව රුක්මනී දේවී මධ්‍යස්ථානය.
January 10.
හලාවත සුදසුන ශාලාව.
January 13.
මහනුවර KCC පරිශ්‍රය.
January 14.
කුරුණෑගල නගර ශාලාව.
ජනවාරි 16
අනුරාධපුර නගර සභා ශ්‍රවණාගාරය
ජනවාරි 17
වවුනියාව නගර ශාලාව
ජනවාරි 19
මාතර සනස ශ්‍රවණාගාරය
ජනවාරි 20
මොනරාගල නගර සභා පුස්තකාල ශ්‍රවණාගාරය
ජනවාරි 21
අම්පාර තානායම පරිශ්‍රය
ජනවාරි 23
රත්නපුර නගර ශාලාව
ජනවාරි 24
බණ්ඩාරවෙල හින්දු සංස්කෘතික ශාලාව
ජනවාරි 25
නුවරඑළිය නගර ශාලාව
ජනවාරි 27
ගාල්ල නගර ශාලාව
ජනවාරි 28 සිට ජනවාරි 30 දක්වා
කොළඹ රත්මලාන ස්ටයින් මැදිර සංකීර්ණය
Scan the QR code. Enter your name, age, address, and phone number. Or simply WhatsApp us at 071 799 7788.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm in conversation with His Excellency Santosh, High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, and today is, of course, the 77th Republic Day of India. Now, Your Excellency, the External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is no stranger to Sri Lanka, of course, visited last month and announced a very significant package for Sri Lanka to help in the recovery, of the post-cyclone situation. How could you tell us more about this package and how it was arrived at, and what was the reasoning behind it? It was, I believe, a total of 450 million.
Oh, yeah, it is 450 million US dollars. It has two parts. It's 350 million Indian national rupee denominated lines of credit, which will be concessional, and 100 million, or around 100 million, $4 or $5 million plus and minus in grants. As we were doing the relief and rescue work, we were naturally interacting and closely coordinating with Sri Lankan officials in different departments, including the Disaster Management Center. And we started getting a feel of the kind of devastation and the scale of it. And we saw that it was quite massive, and immediately were trying to obtain information on how much damage has happened. And based on these discussions and assessments that we obtained, we were very quickly able to put together a package, basically targeting the sectors that are worst affected, or where Sri Lankan government felt they needed support in the post-rescue relief stage for the rehabilitation and reconstruction phase. We, of course, naturally sent our recommendations to India, and very quickly these were approved. And when the External Affairs Minister came, he carried this package and a message from the Prime Minister to His Excellency, the President of Sri Lanka. The package has 5 pillars, 5 areas of focus. The first is the connectivity area, which is the roads, railways and bridges. The second area is housing and water supply, because if you look at the damage, these are the 2 principal sectors that have been damaged. We also are working on a disaster response and preparedness strategy, which will require a lot of training, capacity building, and developing SOPs, and trying to create a mechanism by which Sri Lanka can then be able to respond more effectively in the future and in such situations. Because not always, because it depends on how big the devastation is. Sometimes very difficult to respond on their own, but we want to build that capacity that they can respond on their own as far as possible. The fourth area is the agriculture, which includes in agriculture in a more holistic sense, livestock, seed, fertilizers, whatever the government of Sri Lanka determines is needed. We are not fixated on getting this or that. It is for the government of Sri Lanka to decide how it wants to use it. And similarly, the fifth one is the medical sector, because again, hospitals have been impacted. Some hospitals would have to be shifted from landslide prone areas to safer areas. Others have been damaged and require supply of equipment. And we are using this to create some new infrastructure, like maybe digitizing the medical records, because many of that was destroyed and cannot be retrieved anymore. So if you digitize them, keep them on servers, then you will always have them, even in a disaster situation. So this is more like what the vision of the president is about, rebuilding, but rebuilding better. So a lot of work that we are doing is not just restoring what was there earlier, but making it to a level that would be desirable for Sri Lanka at this time, in this year of the modern era. So the package is diverse. It is focused on mainly the areas which are worst affected. And one more thing I must mention, that we have kept the package in a way that we can respond to certain sectors which are the most immediate need of rehabilitation through a faster mechanism. So when the minister came, he actually gave a plan to the president about how we intend to implement it, and there are very strict timelines within which the milestones have to be achieved and implementation should be concluded. And we are working under that kind of a time plan. And we have, as I said, grant assistance is largely focused on areas that we need to first attack. So, for example, the bridges that have been damaged, they will be restored using a grant assistance. The Northern Railway line, which has been damaged, not massive damage, but partial damage, which will require $4-5 million, is under grant. Similarly, housing, we've been doing lots of housing in this country. About 60,000 houses have already been built with Indian assistance. We have a lot of experience. So we will be doing it under the grant assistance. Supply of shelter material, helping restore damaged houses. These all will be under grant. Similarly, in the medical sector also, there are certain things that we will do through a grant assistance, because the delivery has to be quick and, these systems must be in place. The entire disaster response and preparedness package will be completely under grant. And then there are these lines of credit. And in fact, you would be quite surprised to know that we've already advanced the negotiations to a level that we can agree very quickly to the terms and conditions, and the money will start rolling out within a matter of 40 to 50 days to begin to implement these projects. But even as we speak, last week I had the privilege of going to a place near Kandy to inaugurate a Bailey Bridge. So we will be bringing in about 20 odd Bailey bridges for restoring it in 12 hours it can be constructed, and the connectivity can be established. And similarly, we went with the Minister of Transport to Maho, where we inaugurated the rehabilitation work, repair work for the railway line that goes from Maho to Omanthai and Medawachia to Talaimanar. There are sectors that require urgent repairs. So we have already started the implementation of reconstruction package in certain sectors. In other sectors, it will take more time because naturally they are more complex and maybe procurement is involved, which takes a little bit of process.
Wonderful package indeed. Now let's talk about the broader assistance that India has been providing over the long term. And I'm talking about perhaps the last 3 or 4 years and into the future. Would you like to take us through some of the key aspects of those?
See, when the president had gone last year to India, not last year, but in 24 December, the Prime Minister of India had said that the pillars of our partnership is energy, digitization, and the infrastructure.
Yes.
So we are, working on each of these areas. Now, if you look at the digitization sector, in 2024, we were able to introduce UPI. I read before coming here that His Excellency the President has talked about making Sri Lanka a cashless economy. We are a largely cashless economy because of the universal payment interface, and that system has been introduced. And what is needed is the incentivization system to make it more popular and more people adopting it, like we have in India. The unique digital identity system is in fairly advanced stages of the rollout. We expect later this year the rollout to begin. That will create the backbone for the digitization that Sri Lanka wants. In the energy sector, the Sampur power project has been launched when the Prime Minister came in April. The tender is out now and bidding process is going on for the construction of this, as well as the transmission line from Sampur to Kapalthure. And then there is a grid interconnection. That's a very long period. We have been discussing this. Now we have come to a conclusion on technical parameters, and we are working on finding the financial modalities to fund this and kickstart this. So there is, if you look at, and then there is the development cooperation, where, as I mentioned, the assistance package is on top of the traditional funding that we have been doing, which is to the tune of about $7 billion, of which about 780 million is in grant assistance over the years I'm talking about. And we are doing a whole lot of things, from railways to transport sector, road transport sector, to, building hospitals, to constructing schools, providing facilities in different institutions. We do a lot of training program that we launched last year. 1,000 Sri Lankans every year to be trained in India in different fields of choice for the government of Sri Lanka. So we have a wide-ranging infrastructure, energy-related, cooperation, and we have digitization cooperation, which is not just the UPI and the UDI, but we are talking about other platforms for medical sector, for disaster response and preparedness, for storing, documents, etc. Basically integrating the whole ecosystem and getting them not to stay in silos, but to be interconnected to give the maximum optimal output. And then you have the broader development cooperation, which is our aspirational thing, that as developing economies, we want to build a better country in India, and you want to do it in Sri Lanka. And we are trying to support as far as possible that process. So it's a very wide-ranging partnership, very, very strong partnership, and I hope a delivering partnership.
And can I ask you about areas such as technology and perhaps investment by Indian companies into Sri Lanka? And of course, the number of Indian tourists who are coming to Sri Lanka is, of course, quite unprecedented now, but India remains the number one source market for tourism into Sri Lanka. How do you see these sectors?
So the economic cooperation is, of course, very key. I mean, it's mostly the government job there is to facilitate it, but it's mostly the private sector that enables it. And that should be the way it should be, the relationship in this sector. So you have a situation where India is the largest trading partner of Sri Lanka. We have emerged over the last 2-3 years as the second largest export destination for Sri Lanka's products after the United States of America. We are also, as you said, the largest source of tourists coming into Sri Lanka, and that has been growing rapidly. But I think you have only touched a tip of the iceberg. There's a huge number that is out there that you need to promote and attract to Sri Lanka. There are other destinations where Indians are going in much larger numbers, and therefore it is not logical that they would not come to such a beautiful country as Sri Lanka is. From our side, we do a lot of work to promote it. We had a tourism promotion event here where we brought in people. We are bringing hoteliers to invest in the hotel industry. So we are doing that. Similarly, we have been the largest foreign investor in this country for the last 5 to 6 years. But particularly, I'd point out in 2025, if you look at the total investment that India has made directly from India and Indian companies have made through other countries, we have accounted for more than 50% of the total investments received by Sri Lanka last year. And these are investments that have fructified. They are not on, drawing boards or anything. These are already the money that has come in. So we are very, very, strong in promoting it. We have added, you mentioned technology. So the emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, digitization, these are areas that will, determine the future of our economies, our society. So we are working very closely on the startup ecosystem. We are trying to bring in, venture capitalists into this country. We are going to have some agreements very soon on working on certain artificial intelligence aspects. So there are, even on the technology side, the innovation side, we are moving forward very, very rapidly.
Right. And of course, there are many MOUs and agreements which are constantly under discussion between the two governments. But one which has been going on for some time perhaps is EDCA. And that is something which many people feel would be highly advantageous to Sri Lanka. What is the status of that one?
I think it is mostly the government of Sri Lanka that has to take a decision. I recall listening to a statement made by the minister in the parliament where he said that they are going through an evaluation process, and once they have evaluated, they would come back to India to propose the strategy for the further upgradation of the free trade agreement. Now, that's, in my view, is a very logical thing to do, because in 1998, when we signed that free trade agreement, it was first for India and first for Sri Lanka. Since then, we have had 25 years of operation because the agreement came into force in 2000. Secondly, we have also signed other agreements and negotiated them, and we have gathered the experience of their implementation as well. And we know that now that agreement, which we signed and were the first for both the countries, needs a significant updation in terms of strengthening them, making them more relevant to today's requirements, and also trying to get stronger procedures to provide the kind of protection and promotion that is needed, because you would hear on both sides that there are non-tariff barriers. We need to address those non-tariff barriers, make it easier for people to able to access each other's market. So the idea is that, and given the fact that, as I mentioned, there are 2 points that I'll make on the trade front that are very, very relevant. I just said that India has emerged as the second largest destination for Sri Lankan exports, which shows that the FTA has worked for Sri Lanka. The second is that if you look at purely the FTA-enabled trade figures, Sri Lanka has had most of the past 10 years, maybe 8 to 9 years out of 10 years before today, Sri Lanka has had a trade surplus with India. So the overall trade surplus comes in favor of India because there is a non-FTA trade that is happening. But the FTA facilitated, FTA enabled trade, Sri Lanka has a surplus. So very clearly, this is advantageous for Sri Lanka to access this very large Indian market. And I sincerely hope that the government can take a decision quickly on the strategy forward and move ahead with it. I must mention that India has been on a signing spree for FTAs. We have concluded with UK, with UAE, with Australia, with Oman. We have done with the EFTA, which is 4 European countries. We have done with Australia, New Zealand. Now we have resumed with Canada. Our FTA negotiations with the European Union is in very advanced stages. So we are a very open-minded country at this time for it, entering into free trade arrangements with our closest partners. And in Sri Lanka is our closest neighbor. Makes every sense to go ahead with it.
And we are almost out of time. So one final question, Your Excellency. You've been a career diplomat, and you have also, as we discussed earlier, you have ample knowledge of Sri Lanka and the India-Sri Lanka relationship, and you played a key role in it, especially in recent times. If you are to gaze into a crystal ball and look down the road about 5 years from now, where do you see India's position on the world stage and Sri Lanka's relationship with India?
Look, I mean, diplomats don't have a crystal ball. That's the reality. And even if they had, they will probably not use it for public articulation. But having said that, I think I will say that on both questions, I would give a very strong, positive sort of an outlook. India is destined to grow, according to most international experts, for the next 2 decades at a very high rate. That's also because there is so much latent potential in India that has not been realized for many, many years. Sri Lanka has the same thing. I mean, our countries have one common malaise, which is that we have promised but not delivered. And this is probably the time when we can work jointly to build growth together, prosperity together, and finally deliver on the promise that probably the people who fought for our independence had in mind. And a developed India and a developed Sri Lanka should be an ideal goal to pursue. India-Sri Lanka relations, I mean, if you look at the trajectory of the last 5 or 10 years, there has been an upward trajectory. Only that we are at maybe the highest level this time, but doesn't mean that this is the ultimate high that you can reach. There is a lot of potential to go further ahead. If you look at trade and economic cooperation, you look at investment, the technology collaboration, the potential in the infrastructure, all these areas that I have spoken about, and the growing capabilities and aspirations of our people. The potential is huge. It will be a forward-leaning trajectory for sure.
Heartening news indeed, and I will certainly 5 years from now look back, and I might give you a call, and we can discuss it at that time as well. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and let me convey my best wishes on the Republic Day of India to all Indians first, but also friends of India in Sri Lanka. I believe you are a very good friend of ours, so I would like to convey my greetings to you as well, and many thanks.
And congratulations to you, and especially all of your colleagues at the Indian High Commission here in Colombo on the 77th Republic Day of India. And I'm afraid that's all the time we have tonight. Don't go away, because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.